Madera Company's team members, it is great to have you back for the second season of Touch Base. In this season, we're going to do a couple of different things that are going to build on what we did in season one. If you remember in season one, we brought in Dave Marcinkowski, Charlie Young, two of our founding partners, and they walked us through values and then also some of the marketplace things that are going on in the multifamily housing industry. In season two, we're going to put some flesh on the bones. We're going to figure out all the operations and talk through generalities when it comes to what we do in the various companies that we have and then also the various departments. Today, I'm excited to welcome in Drew Anderson. He is the Executive Vice President for Investor Relations for Madera Residential, and that is definitely a mouthful. And so if you are joining us for the first time, Here is Drew, and we're going to start walking through this operations and learning a little bit about what you do and what others in our company do. And so first of all, I want to thank you, and I just want to welcome you in and say, thanks for being here.
Oh, Josh, thank you. You guys have done a great job with this, and I'm just happy to be a part of it.
Yeah,
absolutely.
It's going to be exciting. And you know me, and you know kind of what we've talked about a little bit. I like to humanize the guest. I like to humanize a little bit of who you are so that people across the state and even beyond begin to see like, hey, these are real people. They have real lives. So tell us a little bit about yourself. Tell us about, your family maybe. Tell us about kind of how you got here with Madera and maybe kind of how long you've been here. Just kind of give us a quick bio.
Okay, it can be a really long bio, but I'm going to try to keep it quick. I was born and raised in Lubbock. Went to college in Abilene. Married my high school sweetheart. She too is from Lubbock, and she went to Abilene Christian. Both my sons graduated ACU. My oldest is married. Just dropped my daughter off to ACU a week ago. So I'm a week-long empty nester at this point.
How's that going?
It's going good. It was sad for me for about 45 minutes. Got over it. My wife will take a little bit longer, but it's going really well. Yeah. I was in banking for 26 years.
Okay.
Prior to coming over to Madera. I've been here for a year and a half. So I got a little bit different perspective. I'm not an old-time industry guy or girl in this. So I banked Madera, banked Dave, Charlie, Gary, Alton. Did one of their first deals for them on the debt side, financed it, and then financed about 10 other deals for them throughout a 12-year period. So I was in at the beginning. We were one of their primary banks, and our bank sold to a publicly traded bank. Marcinkowski, Charlie, really close to those guys, lived next door to Marcinkowski.
Okay.
Started talking to them about, hey, can I add value? And he was asking me the same question. And it turned out that, hey, we need some help on the equity side.
Okay.
So for those of you that really know the balance sheet, and we'll talk maybe more about that here in a bit, but I went from debt to equity. And it's been so much fun. It's a great organization. For those that have never worked anywhere else, can't appreciate how great this organization is.
Yeah, and I know you're not being paid to say that, so I know that's totally genuine.
It's genuine. I've been in the workforce for 26, 27 years, and I've never worked at a company quite like this. It's awesome.
Now, one of the things I know about you, I know you're a man of faith. I know you're a family man. I know that you care about like the value, to use your word just a minute ago, the value of your life and the value you bring to others' lives. And so talk a little bit about like kind of your personal purpose, like how you are directed, especially maybe in conjunction with some of the values we've got as a company with Christ and community and Kenai, but kind of talk about your purpose a little bit, how you feel driven to kind of follow through on those.
Well, I mean, here there's a lot of community, and I so appreciate that coming from my background. And in Lubbock, it's easy to do that, right? We're a small town, we're a conservative town, with the good and bad and all of that. But I love the community that the partners have built here. That's one of the reasons why I really wanted to come to work here. I mean, the collaboration between the departments, the collaboration I have with Charlie Young almost on a daily basis. It's funny, when I came here, Marcinkowski, who's one of my really close friends, I thought, this is going to be awesome. I'm going to see him all the time. I never see him. The guy is so busy. But, with Mike Nelson, our CFO, Andrew Wallace, all these different departments in the collaboration, it's really impressive, and they want input, and they're not afraid to give their input. So I really like the sense of community, and obviously with the growth that we've had over the last, good grief, 2-3 years, even before I was here, the Kenai. I mean, we are constantly changing, and we have to get better to feed this beast of the Madera companies, and it just shows up daily in our working lives.
Yeah, and I think it's important to kind of make sure everybody understands. I mean, we have now 5 companies that kind of fit under the Madera companies. I mean, it's kind of crazy. You've got Madera Residential, which is the one who brought all of this along, and then you get Quext, which is the apartment technology company. Now we have partnerships, and we're working with other places like Viva First, who is this digital bank who's specifically going to care for the Latino community, which is an absolutely awesome effort right there.
Cool.
And then now we got Select Title, the title company that's kind of based out of Houston, and all the good people that work for them. And then it's pretty awesome to even think about some of the other stuff going on when it comes to Rockwood and this fee management effort that we're going to be doing with them. Now let's kind of transition a little bit here and kind of talk about your department specifically. For those of us who may be not from this industry and not really know what you do, what is the investor relations department? What do you guys kind of work through and do?
Well, if you think about it, and I work primarily and closely with Madera Residential, where we buy apartments. And obviously most of the people on this podcast probably are very aware of that and what we do. So when we buy an apartment, we set a price. Let's just use round numbers, $100 million.
Okay.
So if we buy a property that's a $100 million purchase price, we've got to put money down, much like someone would when they're buying a house.
Okay.
$100,000 house, they got to put $20,000, $30,000 down generally. So we got to come up with 20 or 30 million to put down. The bank will finance 60 to 70 million of that.
Okay.
We go raise the money from individual investors for the 30 million equity. And so what we do in our department is we develop those relationships with people, and a lot of them are in West Texas, but we have a lot of investors in Dallas. We have a lot of investors in Houston. Heck, we've got investors in New York, in San Francisco.
Yeah.
And I got a funny story about one.
Go for it. Tell us.
Because I'm working my list and I'm calling on people, and then I get in touch with this guy in New York, and he's a referral from a referral, and that's how this business works. And I told him, hey, I'm Drew. I went to Abilene Christian. He goes, you went to Abilene Christian? He said, well, I know this guy. He's in Tennessee. And so he gives me his name. And the guy I talked to, he didn't go to Abilene Christian, but he knew some people from Abilene Christian, and they're 3 or 4 years older than me. And he ends up putting me together with these people that went to ACU that graduated 3 or 4 years ago. But that whole chain started in New York, went to Tennessee, and went back to my school, and they live in Dallas.
Yeah.
So that's kind of how this business works.
Well, yeah, I was going to say, flesh that out a little bit. Like, what does it look like to build these relationships and take care of these investors? Because clearly it's like who you know and how all that kind of works, but you also have to maintain relationships with these guys in order for them to continue to invest with us and be a part of what we're doing with future deals. So what does that look like?
Well, first and foremost, we've got to put a good product out there, right? And we've got to have a return to our investors. And Madera has done a phenomenal job of that over the last 12 years. So we have a track record. That's number one. So then that gives me the story to go and talk to everyone. So it is very relational. I was in banking for 26 years. I was a chief lending officer, and our biggest thing is relationships in community banks. Well, that transitioned really well to here, to where we're calling on these people and we're developing a relationship. You know, a lot of them are from around here, so a lot of them are face-to-face calls. Some of, I mean, the guy in New York, I'm not, unless he writes a really big check, I'm probably not going to jump on the plane and go to New York, but I'm developing a relationship. And with COVID, you know, the good and bad, mostly the bad of COVID, but Zoom calls became more the norm. So I started doing that more and more, and you develop those relationships because there's a big sense of trust with those investors of saying, okay, if I'm going to give you $100,000, $200,000, $1 million, whatever the number is, they got to trust you. So we've got the track record that everyone is responsible for and has done a really good job with. And then beyond that, it starts with the trust between maybe me and the individual or the partners in the individual.
Yeah.
So I'm telling you, it's so much fun.
Yeah.
So much fun.
And you're doing, I mean, you guys are doing such good work that we're growing your department, or
Yes.
y'all are growing your department.
Yes, yes.
And so we're adding new team members.
Yeah.
I know we've got some new folks that are working for us in Dallas in the DFW area. I met another guy yesterday who's going to be working with us. So we're growing. So talk about how you grow the investor pool a little bit when it comes to like these prospective guys. What are you doing to learn more and get more guys involved?
Okay, that's a great question, because first off, I want to talk about my team.
Okay.
Our team. We've got a great team. Melissa Rainey worked with me at the bank, and so I came over here, and the first thing I did is I got to get her back.
Yeah.
So she came, and she's actually kind of started helping Mike Nelson and Andrew Wallace more on the finance side, because with her banking background. So I hired another investor relation admin assistant, Maria Munoz. She came from the city of Lubbock. She's fantastic. She's picked it up really good, and she deals with the investors a lot on a daily basis. They got questions. They're having problems filling out forms. She's been fantastic. Then we knew strategically we wanted to grow our investor base, so I envisioned a department, and the partners envisioned that as well. So it came much quicker than I thought. So we hired another guy, Colin Cooper. He was a banker here in Lubbock, and his wife is a medical student. She just graduated, and she started her residency in Dallas.
Okay.
And they are from that area. So he was like, man, do you guys have any opportunities? And I said, as a matter of fact, we want to build our investor base in Dallas. So as a banker, he's very comfortable with Colin. He's extremely relational. So that worked out great. He's building our investor base.
Yeah. Which is also helpful to us, by the way, too, because we have so many properties in the DFW area.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And he can take those investors and they can go touch those properties that
right.
we own or the ones we're about to buy.
Yeah.
And then we just hired an individual named Clark Lammert.
Okay.
He is from Tech. He's an associate athletic director at Tech. His primary role is fundraising. So guess what he does? He goes out in the community and he asks for money. From a philanthropic standpoint, donations from the individual to Tech. He's fantastic with it. And he's got contacts all over the state of Texas. So he's going from philanthropy to actually raising money for equity, for return for those individuals. And I promise you, our job's a lot easier than what he's used to. Because it's hard to solicit donations.
Sure.
And he was a phenomenal individual in that arena.
Well, and truth be told, too, he's also probably a guy you want on your basketball team.
Yeah.
Because he's like 6'8" and played ball at Tech.
Yeah,
right?
he played ball at Tech,
Yeah.
and I mean he's a sight to see walking down the hall.
He'll be my first pick. If we ever have a league,
That's exactly right.
Yeah, that's great.
But he's going to do great. He just started with us, and with that, the goal obviously is just to keep adding investors, so that when Charlie finds the deal, we've got the equity, the down payment, if you will, to go buy that deal.
Yeah. So who can be an investor? So you start talking about we've got some, and we have prospective ones that we're working on and bringing them in. But what does that mean? Like, how do you get to be an investor?
Yeah, and that's a great question. It's defined. The SEC defines this. You got to be an accredited investor.
Okay.
And what that means is you have to check some boxes. It's private equity. So it's not like going and buying a stock in the stock market.
Yeah.
And there are some limitations because there are some bad actors out there that solicit funds and then they may not do what they're supposed to do with that funds. The government has come in and said we want to protect people that may not have as good of understanding. So an accredited investor, the two main points are you make more than $250,000 a year as an individual, or $350,000 as a couple, or in excess of $1 million net worth outside your home.
Okay.
So that's your assets minus your liabilities.
Yeah.
That's your net worth.
Yeah.
And so that's in very simple terms. That's what an accredited investor are. There's others out there, other check boxes, but those are the main two.
Yeah, that makes sense. So what makes us different than some of the other entities that invest like we do, especially when we're talking institutional funds versus the individual investors and things like that? Talk us through that a little bit.
Well, I don't want to throw a lot of numbers out there.
That's okay.
And I don't want this to get boring, but it's really exciting, and I'm passionate about it. But this year we will raise $300 million of equity. With that, we will buy $1 billion worth of properties. But we're also selling 7 or 8 properties at the same time. So we're giving money back to our investors. Those investors are taking that and putting it back in. That's part of the $300 million, right?
Yeah.
So most companies our size, and we're now to the size we've scaled. We're a pretty darn good size regional player in this market. And with our relationships and what we've done, we do what we say we're going to do. We do it in a timely fashion. People want to sell us deals. So what makes us different? Other companies our size, if they're raising $300 million, they may be going to Wall Street and talking to a big company, say JP Morgan, Goldman Sachs.
Okay.
I'm oversimplifying this. But those guys will give them the money, and they have it from other investors. But when they do that, they kind of dictate what you do.
Right.
And it's funny because we went through COVID, and the market kind of started depressing. Instability, what's anyone doing? And those big companies go, oh, we got to sell at the low point because of all the uncertainty. And then they don't start jumping back in until things stabilize. So they're selling at the low and they're buying at the high. Well, what'd we do? We bought at the low. Charlie, in his infinite wisdom, said, this is the time to buy A properties. So that's what we've been doing. And the basis we're buying those at have been phenomenal.
Yeah, with an understanding that we're talking 5 to 7 years, somewhere around there down the road, which hopefully things have changed with the market.
Yeah, and they are starting to change.
Yeah,
now.
and you're talking about the upheaval that we've seen for the last 18 months or whatever. So what I was going to say, talk us through the marketplace. What are you seeing? What are you guys talking through right now that gives us these opportunities?
Well, I think what you're seeing, and again, I know the partners get together and they talk about this stuff probably regularly, but I collaborate with Charlie. So when I say Charlie, sometimes collectively, I may be referring to all 4 partners, but Charlie saw in March of 2020 the opportunity to buy these A assets because the institutions were pulling out, they were selling, and knowing that things were going to turn. I mean, Texas during COVID, the in-migration was phenomenal because California shut down, New York shut down.
Yeah.
So everyone was relocating to Texas. Well, what do you need when people relocate?
Yeah.
You need housing.
Yep.
You need multifamily. The price of single-family homes have been doing this. Well, a lot of those people that might have bought that home can no longer afford it.
Yeah.
So they end up staying as apartment renters.
Yeah, and if I'm not mistaken, going back to Charlie's interview that we did just a few months ago, Charlie said something crazy like 22 or 23, something like that, headquarters from California or New York moved to basically DFW.
Yeah. I mean, and it's ridiculous. And the same thing's happening in Houston and Austin. So if you look around, we've done a really good job of timing everything.
Yeah.
Because population is going up.
Yeah.
Employment population is going up with all these relocations. So we're getting tenants in the units. And guess what else is happening? There hadn't been as much construction, so rents are going up.
Yeah.
It's kind of the perfect storm.
Yeah. Man, it has been so good to have you on. It has been so good to kind of talk through this and get to hear the different things that are going on in your department. One of the things that brought me over, I've only been here for 7-8 months, something like that now. And I think one of the things that brought me over was really believing in the leadership's aspirations that we are going to be people-centered, that we're going to take care of our people, particularly that we're going to make decisions with like the utmost integrity and those types of things when it comes to that. And then we're going to be transparent about what goes on in the departments. And so I really appreciate you coming on, kind of opening us up a little bit to see what you guys are working on. I really appreciate you championing your team. And so first, I just want to thank you for being here.
Oh, I'm telling you, I'm lucky to be here.
Yeah.
Truly. I knew these guys before they were Madera. And I saw the potential, and believe me, every day I thank the Lord that I'm here. This place is awesome. And again, for those that have not worked at any other place, they might not appreciate it as much, but it's a cool place.
Yeah,
it's a cool place.
Very cool, very cool. Hey, to you team members from the Madera companies, anybody from Klex to Viva to Select Title to Rockwood, and then of course Madera Residential, we just want to thank you guys so much for having joined us today. Thank you for being a part of this. We will have another podcast for you next week in which we will spend some more time looking through the operations of another department. And so thank you, Drew, again for being with us.
Absolutely.
And we will talk to you guys soon. Thanks a lot.